What's up, YouTube? This is Joey with the Outdoor Programmer. I'm here at the Fairfield Fishing Game with my friend Eric, and we're going to teach you guys about OpenTofu and the history of OpenTofu, how you use OpenTofu and all those things while we shoot firearms.
Yay.
Eric has no idea what OpenTofu is, so he's going to be learning right along with everybody else.
Outdoors, tech flows blending the streams, fish hunt code, living the dream, from the woods to the keys where I'm tracking in trees, the outdoor programmer, king of the scene.
All right, so OpenTofu, do you know what AWS is?
Yes.
So AWS, for those that don't know, is a cloud platform where people host things like servers and serverless functions and a bunch of other things. And let me take another shot here. Just like, boom, that. Back in the day, if you wanted to stand up like a server or something, you had to put an order in for a server, wait for an actual human to pick up that work order the actual server, install the server, and do all of the things to actually get you a physical server going. Nowadays, we have AWS, GCP, Azure, DigitalOcean, all these major cloud platforms. And what they do is, instead of having to order the computer and wait for somebody to install it, they have APIs that allow you to spin up servers on demand. So if you're like, hey, I want this new instance that has 10 gigs of RAM and 15 virtual CPUs, you can send a request to AWS's API and it spins it up instantly, pretty much.
Right.
So what OpenTofu does is it orchestrates those APIs. There's something called a resource in OpenTofu, and you could say like resource AWS EC2 instance, and that will spin up a virtual EC2 instance in AWS by reaching out to those APIs and making those API calls for you.
How does it differentiate from like AWS itself? Is it just like another brand, or?
OpenTofu?
Yeah.
So OpenTofu is a CLI tool. You write code, and then that code is interpreted by OpenTofu, and OpenTofu reaches out to AWS or GCP or Azure and uses their APIs to spin up those resources.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, that one almost hit me. All right, so another benefit of OpenTofu is that if you want to spin up like thousands of servers, you can do that super quickly with OpenTofu, because you can literally just say count 1,000, and then it'll reach out to the API 1,000 times, spin up that server 1,000 times, and you'll have 1,000 servers ready to go. Something that makes life really easy with OpenTofu as well, you know that there's like different stages of deploying infrastructure. Like you have a dev stage where all your devs like do work, make changes a lot. You have QA where people go in and test those changes, and then you have production, and that's where like your actual users and stuff are. So OpenTofu makes repeatability really easy. So you can write code that is made for dev. Your devs have tested it and they're ready for the next stage to be tested. They could take that exact same code and move it into QA, and it could spin up the servers the exact same way they did in dev, so that the QA people can now test it. QA says it's good. They could take that exact same code and move it into production, apply it in production, and it will automatically be exactly the same as you've had in dev QA.
Okay, so it's pretty streamlined then.
Yes, exactly. That's actually like one of the main benefits of it. And I actually work for a company called Spacelift, and we are a OpenTofu orchestrator. This is not endorsed by Spacelift in any way, just so anybody knows. I'm just here talking about it. You can use any Tacos platform, and the cool thing about a Tacos platform, it's Terraform automation, I forget what the C, collaboration, Terraform automation, collaboration, orchestration, I think. There's different kinds of Tacos platforms. Spacelift is a Tacos platform, and you could build policies on top of your Terraform code inside of Tacos platforms. So say maybe your organization doesn't want your servers to be publicly available on the internet. You can write policies in a Tacos platform that says if somebody tries to create this server, that is open to the internet deny it from actually running, and it'll stop the run from happening, so you won't actually get that insecure infrastructure.
Okay. That's pretty handy. So it's bundled a lot of stuff together.
Exactly, yep.
I'm pretty sure I haven't hit the actual target once. That field mouse is... He keeps inching out, you shoot, he takes off, and he inches out, you shoot, he takes off.
Oh, I see him.
Yeah.
That's a let's see if the camera can get him. It's a chipmunk.
Oh, it's a chipmunk? He's so tiny.
He's so little. I'm out. Let's go see how terrible we did.
Yep. All we have is everything's grouped bottom right corner, and then we got a couple in the top left and top right corner. Nothing hit the actual.
I'm not even going to replace the target.
Yeah. That's
What idiots. God, we're bad at our jobs. Put another staple in it because it's getting wet and it looks like it's going to fall.
That's embarrassing.
This is my 350 Legend. I take this hunting, mostly for deer when deer season's in. But I'll let you guys see this bad boy. That was in the yellow. Maybe I'll just keep this footage. So something kind of, I don't know the right word to use, honestly, is that, oh, you have 2 more magazines. I guess I probably should have loaded more magazines. OpenTofu used to be, well, not used to be, there's still this software that's called Terraform, and back in the day Terraform was released in an open source license. I don't exactly remember which license it was. The way that OpenTofu came about is that one day the company that maintains the code for Terraform changed the license, and the community viewed that as like a rug pull. And so they made it, it's called a BSL license now. And the way that the license is written is that you can continue using Terraform in any manner, and the code for Terraform is still available. But if you're a direct competitor of this company that's called HashiCorp, that was actually just bought by IBM, you're not allowed to use Terraform, at least in a way that like your customers would be paying for you. So like the Spacelifts, the ENV0s, the Scalers, the Terra Team, all of these like tacos platforms and tools that you have to pay.
You just drop
A bullet. These tools that you have to pay to use Terraform on their platforms, they weren't allowed to build Terraform into their products anymore. And so all of those companies kind of came together. They released a manifesto to HashiCorp, basically saying like, change your license back, this is bad for the community, et cetera, and like thousands of developers and companies signed the manifesto saying that like, if you don't change the license back, then we're going to basically fork Terraform. You know what forking is?
No.
So when you host open source software, you usually host it on this platform called GitHub, and that's where like all the source code is, and you can actually fork a project. So if you see a project and it's not doing something that you want, or you want to make like a slight change to it, you can click a button in the UI that takes that code and makes an exact copy of it inside of your organization in GitHub, so that you're free to like modify the code however you want. And that's called forking. Taking somebody else's code, copying it to your side, and then you can make changes to it.
Okay.
So when that license changed with Terraform happened, they forked Terraform, and that became OpenTofu. So OpenTofu and Terraform are the exact same project, and for the most part, all of the code is exactly the same. It's just been forked, renamed, and now these individual companies maintain OpenTofu with an open source license since HashiCorp changed Terraform's license.
Okay, so when they changed the license, how were they able to fork it? And then did they change enough about it to where it was no longer covered under the license?
So what happened is that HashiCorp licensed everything, I think under MPL, which is an open source license. And then one day they just changed the license, but they didn't backdate the license to all the previous files.
Oh, so it took a previous.
That what OpenTofu did is they went back in history on their Git repository and forked it at the day that the license change was announced, and then moved forward with that code.
Okay.
So there's more code that's been built on top of Terraform today that's BSL licensed, but none of that BSL licensed code is in OpenTofu's code repository. Only the MLP licensed stuff is.
Okay. So I'm assuming that is there like a third big name that could be like a competitor, or is it just Terraform and OpenTofu right now as the main?
So there's different technologies. We're talking about IAC tools right now, which is infrastructure as code. You write code, it reaches out to those cloud providers, it spins up that infrastructure. Terraform and OpenTofu are probably the biggest in the industry, but there's other ones like CloudFormation. CloudFormation is a AWS specific IAC code. There's Pulumi, which the way Pulumi works is you can write code in any language. So you can write it in Python, you can write it in Golang, you can write it in PHP, and it compiles, and then it will then reach out to the providers and install the things just like anything else. But you can use any language with Pulumi. There's tools that abstract the Terraform and OpenTofu. So there's this tool called TerraGrunt, and it's a wrapper around Terraform and OpenTofu that makes, do you know what dry is, like dry code?
No.
So dry means don't repeat yourself. It's like a programming philosophy that when you write code, you want to make your code really reusable so that you're not rewriting the same code that does the same thing multiple times. You write like a function, and that function does one thing, and then if you ever have to do that one thing ever again, you just call that function again instead of writing another function to do it.
Okay, so how, this is a little off topic, but dry coding, is that just like, how is that different from just using loops? That's like what a loop is, right? It just calls a function and repeats it?
Right, but you don't rewrite that function. You can call the function hundreds of times if you want to. If you have a recipe for making a cake,
Okay.
you like that recipe works really good, and you have the book with that recipe in it, there's no point in buying another book that has that exact same recipe in it for that same recipe, because you have the recipe at home. So you wouldn't go out and buy it 3 more times. You would just go back to that one book, pull it out, here's my recipe. It's the same thing with coding. If you have a function that does one thing, you don't want to rewrite that function 100 times.
Right.
You just want to write it one time, and then everybody can call that one function to do the thing. So that's what dry coding is. You just write, you don't repeat yourself. You write the thing one time and then you reuse it. But that's what TerraGrunt does, is it allows you to write infrastructure as code that's very dry. You loaded?
Yeah.
Let's go choosies. I'm out. That was 10?
I love this thing.
Knocked the whole thing over. That's a slug, that's why.
Oh, it's a slug? Oh.
Yeah. One, two, three. I'm out. If I had to choose a weapon and I could only choose one, I'd pick a shotgun.
Yeah.
Shotguns are my absolute favorite.
Can you use any language when like coding for it?
Actually, that's a good question. Terraform and OpenTofu. That was sweet. I'm gonna hit this other piece of paper right here. They are written in this language called HCL, which is HashiCorp Configuration Language. It's considered a DSL, domain-specific language. So it's a language built specifically for Terraform and OpenTofu.
So is that just like the best language to use, or
That's the only language you can.
the only? Okay,
Well,
so it's required.
So Terraform and OpenTofu technically can read JSON, which is like an open format, but most people write it in HCL.
Okay. How, I guess, advanced in the field is using OpenTofu or Terraform or whatever, as opposed to like a junior dev position? Can like anyone that can program can use it, or does it take more knowledge, more learning, more understanding to be able to use it?
That's a really good question. So from my point of view, everybody, if you're spinning up infrastructure, whether it's your first day on the job or you've been on the job for years, you should be using Terraform or OpenTofu. The alternative is going into the UI and clicking around and like launching something in AWS from the UI. And the downside of that is what we talked about earlier, is the repeatability. If you're going into AWS, you're clicking around, assigning security groups, adding IAM roles to an EC2 instance, for instance. You're going to have to do that every time you promote it, and you're going to have to remember the steps that you took to do those things. Whereas OpenTofu, it's code. So you just execute the code, it's spun up in dev exactly that way. You execute the code again in QA, it's spun up the exact same way. And the repeatability thing is the biggest part. So to answer your question, again, from my point of view, everybody that is spinning up infrastructure in some way, if you're doing it ClickOps in the UI, you're doing it wrong. You have to do it through at least some form of IAC code. You don't have to do it in Terraform or OpenTofu. At least use something like Pulumi or CloudFormation or any of the other tools that are available. But again, everybody should be using it. OpenTofu and Terraform, in my opinion, is the best.
Pretty sure you're biased on the subject, but do you prefer OpenTofu or Terraform? I mean, you take away the whole open source portion of it, just like as a product.
I am definitely very biased.
I assume so.
And I work at Spacelift, like I said.
Yeah.
And Spacelift is one of the original companies that decided to fork Terraform and create OpenTofu. But with that said, it's hard to say this without being biased, because like no matter how I frame it, it's gonna be a bias.
Right.
But from my opinion, OpenTofu is definitely leagues ahead. So part of the problem too is that Terraform had like a very large backlog of feature requests that the community wanted them to implement. And the like very first thing that happened when OpenTofu got created is the OpenTofu maintainers started implementing those years-long feature requests that have been open for since Terraform was originally incepted, pretty much. So it's, from what I'm seeing, it's getting a lot more features added to it that people have been wanting. So that alone makes it better, in my opinion. And they're coming out with new things for OpenTofu almost every day. The maintainers are on Slack. OpenTofu, do you know what CNCF is?
No, I don't know.
It's the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. They own, when open source projects become like really popular, at the end of the day, open source projects kind of want to join CNCF because they are a third party who's very unbiased, and they help maintain and provide like legal counsel and all these other things for these open source projects. So you can donate your project to CNCF if it gets widely used enough. And OpenTofu, that was the end goal, and as of like 3 or 4 months, they just got accepted into CNCF, so they're now technically owned by CNCF, and they get all the benefits of CNCF. This poor piece of paper, that's all that's left. If you hit it with a slug, that thing's gonna explode.
I did. I'm so excited.
Oh, you were so close,
really?
dude. You were very close.
Was it left or right?
It was to the bottom right. See, it's dripping because you kind of nicked it. Do you see the bottom right of it? It was starting to drip. See it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's dripping because you just nicked it. Oh, you got it.
Right in half. That's beautiful. You want?
I do. I want to try it.
I think there's only one in there, so you might have to. Oh, yes.
Oh, you nicked the side of it. He's bleeding. Get the other one. Alright, I'm out.
First try. Dude, it's great. I think